Hi everyone, so I just thought we'd do a quick short video on using the block paints or the kind of watercolor type paints that come in the little red tin. Okay, so here is one of the images that will be in your pack as well. Now again, I'd recommend doing the pencil transfer first, but for this one I'm just using the photocopy just to show you really just how to use the paint, and then you could decide yourself really how you put it together or how you want the final image to look. So here you'll see I've just given a sample of each of the colours in the dish. You can see they're not very strong. Alright, now the more water you add, the more diluted or the lighter the colour will come. And also remember, the more water you add, the more chance your paper will start to ripple and lose its texture, the texture it has now. So really you can see the range of colours here, and similar to the colour pencil video, it's really about going from light to dark. With watercolour it's extremely difficult to go from dark to light, so really have an idea of the colours you want first. So doing something like this is really helpful. You get an idea of what you're going to get before you put it down on the page. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a very short technique on blending. So one of the things you don't do is you don't mix your colour in the palette. Or if you want to mix your colour, mix it on the plate, or if you have a clean palette like this, but don't mix it in the dishes here. Alright, you'll end up with a really muddy collection of paints, and then what's going to happen is you end up with brown as everything starts to mix together. Okay, so we're going to go with the lemon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yellow. Now you'll see I actually spend a little time really loading up my brush, like lots and lots of paint on that, because I want it quite strong. Now you'll have two other brushes in your pack as well. You have a bigger brush, which is probably more suitable for this particular one, but this is just to give you an idea. A little bit of water, not too much. And what I'm going to first, I'm just going to block in my colours first. Now there are other techniques, but this is just a starting technique really. Like with painting, it's all about experimenting and learning something new, and just going from there, starting off, not to make it too complicated with all the different techniques with the watercolour. Okay, so I want to kind of flatten that out, make sure it's as close to a solid colour as possible. You can see that there. Now what I'm going to do next, I have to clean off my brush really well, and what I always have is either tissue paper or some kitchen roll. Alright, now when I wet my brush, if I put it on the kitchen roll and there's any colour left, I still have to keep cleaning my brush. So there's no colour coming off there. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take some of this kind of darker green, well, not too much, I only want to darken the bottom of the lemon, and then I'm going to basically just a little bit of colour there. Now if it's not dark enough, I dip it back in, load my brush a little bit more. Okay, and I want to blend that up a little bit. So my paint is still, the yellow underneath is still wet, so that's going to help me blend that quite nicely. And then just a little bit of water just to blend it in. And there I have the green kind of coming up through my lemon. Alright, so let's try something with the little flowers. So let's say if we start in the centre, so let's start with a nice kind of deep pinky red here. So I'm going to put like some little lines here first. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush, and a little bit of water, and I just want to push out that colour. So now I have the colour kind of blending out nicely. Now you want to do this fairly quickly before the paint actually dries, because otherwise it just won't work. But you know, you're going to do this. Watercolour is quite a quick painting approach, and there you can see you have that nice intense colour in the centre, and then it goes out into this kind of off-white pink colour here. Now let's try something a little darker. So let's say I want to make these ones up here kind of a purple colour. Again, load up my brush, and remember I don't want to put my hand into my paint, so I'm going to first just the top like this, clean off my brush, Now I want a yellow kind of coming up from the bottom, so again I have to make sure my brush is really clean. And I come into the bottom first where I want a nice clean yellow. That's my bottom part. Clean off my brush, a little bit of water, and then I'm going to blend them in together, up into each other. And you can see there that it really does change the effect of the paint. Okay, now the paper I'm using here is just normal photocopier paper. Your card will be better. You won't see this kind of bubbling effect that is happening on this paper. But again, remember, if you use too much water, you're going to have very much a bubble effect. Now, if you're going to do a background, either do that right at the beginning or when everything's dry. Alright, so if the paper or the paint is anyway wet, if you get too close, they will bleed into each other. So you really want to avoid that. Now, let's say we do the stalk. Let's load up in brown first. I'm just going to put that all in brown. So again, this is a technique that is also used with the acrylics. It's kind of blocking in of colour. If you use it with these kind of watercolour paints, you have to work really fast. And you have to remember, like, if you go intense colour down first, you're not going to go back. It won't go light for you. So because this brown is a lighter colour I'm going to put in here, it's not too bad. So I'm going to block that in first. Then I'm going to take a little bit of this grey, not necessarily black. And then I'm just going to muddy up those kind of corners, just to give a little bit of texture, give a little bit of change. Remember, it's still wet, so I can push it around a little bit. And there we go. And you can see there, that's why you don't put your paws on the on the paint. So guys, enjoy that. Again, it's only an introduction. There are a huge array of different techniques that can be used with watercolours, but it's just a quick stop introduction to one of the techniques using part of your art pack.